How we doing, everybody? Welcome to our fourth module here, liking. If I were to think about these modules again, broadly speaking, I would say still that reciprocity and social proof are the two stronger ones. I would then have commitment and consistency and liking more as I don't know about subliminal, but something that's slower over time. Or social proof could be quicker, reciprocity could be quicker. I think liking is a slow build, or it kind of happens, subconsciously, so to speak. There's a lot of good questions about liking here that I'm going to answer, and I would like to thank everyone for your awesome World Cup topic talks. It's very topical at the moment. I did watch with a bunch of Argentinians yesterday at a big party. I was rooting for Argentina. My team, not basking in reflecting glory, did not win. Hats off to Germany. At least it was a pretty goal. At least it was not a World Cup decided on penalty kicks, which is one of the worst things that possibly could happen. Felt bad for Messi. But overall, Germany was a stronger team, and Germany did deserve to win. Kind of was rooting for a little underdog action there. But let's do some topic talk action. So we start off with Tiffany, and your About Us page is missing. I would also like to thank everyone for not only having World Cup topic talks. We tended to have a handful of social media topic talks here, and Tiffany has one. The About Me or the About Us page is missing. Tiffany asks, how limiting is the creation of the community or group that we all have similar characteristics or commonalities? Does this stifle the creative process or innovation? What happens to opposites attracting? Well, I have to agree with you here. There is multiple arguments out there with regards to, particularly for networking. It's the strength of weak ties. It's the weak ties that are less similar to us where we tend to get the strongest network effects. If we go into the innovation or the creativity literature, there is no question that we tend to get the strongest ideas from outside our proverbial box in terms of both knowledge and in terms of people. So with regards to that, I have to agree. That there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I like to think about networking with regards to, not only do I have this farming metaphor as opposed to a hunting metaphor for networking, my other thing with networking is this concept of your strengths and weaknesses versus your network strengths or weaknesses. When I did a bunch of interviews, one of the subjects that I interviewed said, look, this is what I bring to the table, this is what I have, this is what I can contribute, but I can't do X. You do X really well. I don't do X really well. So let's partner up. You take care of X and I'll take care of everything else. And we can do something together that we couldn't do by ourselves. Let's see. Mr. Ahmed is talking about L'Oreal and liking, our first World Cup topic talk here. I could be reaching a little bit on this article, but I firmly believe that L'Oreal's marketing strategy when putting Excel up on their YouTube video was to attract hits from outside their target market, meaning men. This would be the best way to get one of their campaigns to go viral. I'd like to know your thoughts if you agree or disagree with my assessment. Well, sure. I'm sure they got a lot of men too. She was a viral sensation. The World Cup was topical. She was very attractive. I think the physical attractiveness aspect of liking was part of this too. I think L'Oreal, along with a lot of the other beauty companies / fashion companies, they want the most physical attractive of all physical attractive people to be part of their brand, because therefore they'll get a stronger liking effect from other people. I have hats off to what is it, Dove, that put real people in their ads, not just extremely attractive celebrity models. But the extremely attractive celebrity models is more effective. I think that's what L'Oreal's doing here. Yes, they are getting some men as part of this, but I think just that's ancillary to their normal marketing efforts. They probably got just as much video hits because of so much stuff was happening related to the World Cup. So they got a lot of extra media because it was a World Cup related story. Everybody picked it up. Okay, Joe. Sports psychology. It's not just a game. Clues to avoid rooting for some team. Joe asked, do you think fans of teams are motivated by identifying with their teams as opposed to individual players or superstars? For example, if LeBron finds a new team, will fans follow him instead of the Heat? LeBron did find a new team. Happened over the weekend. Happens to be a new team that's really an old team, which kind of adds an interesting twist to the story. Now, there's no question that stars help create that bond with a fan to a team. There's no question. I mean, if you look at Cleveland, if you look at Miami, but really, over time, there's more stars. I mean, prior to LeBron being in Miami, there was Shaq in Miami. If we look at the Miami Marlins, they do have stars. They keep blowing up the team, but there's still a team there. If I look at my Phillies, I still have individuals on the Phillies, both new and old, that helps connect me to the team, but I still think it's the team. I have a feeling, and this would be a great study, and maybe there's a study out there that examines this, that your overall assessment of the team is based upon players that are on it. Yet, the players change over time, but you still have it being your team. I was talking to someone the other day. We were watching the World Cup, and they're a fan of Liverpool. Liverpool happened to have a really good year this past year. They choked at the end of the season, but they had a really good year that they hope is going to help them going forward. They had decades there where they were really bad, but there was still a strong Liverpool fan base from the late 70s, early 80s when they were really good. So I think the stars help in the short term to create an overall bond to the team, but I think your team bond stays. And the player bond, especially in today's day and age where these players change teams as much as they do. I apologize for the long-winded answer. I mean, I keep thinking World Cup stuff at the moment. Okay, Mr. Kenneth. What do you think about Cialdini's jiu-jitsu defense to liking? It is broad to the point that makes you question every interaction with every individual. Does this defense suggest that Cialdini looks at every interaction with a jaded eye? Well, let me do the second part of this question first. Cialdini, in multiple parts of this book, falls prey to each of these 6 weapons of influence. There's no ifs, ands, or buts there. He does. I'm pretty sure a previous chapter there was a story about... no, let me not get into that. Let me stop telling stories here. So there are times where he falls prey to these, probably because he's not cognitively engaged. He's... what can I say? He's using heuristics or shortcuts or mental, or it's just not high involvement of a situation, and because it's not that high involvement, he doesn't have a lot of cognitive thought going on. And therefore, you could fall prey to some of these weapons of influence significantly easier. Now, in the back of the chapter, he's like saying, look, we need to think about these things often. But, okay, it's liking. What's wrong with liking? We can like it, but make sure that you understand that it's liking. Right on page 170, it's kind of odd how he words this. He says, there are simply too many routes to be blocked effectively with such a one-on-one strategy. Besides several factors leading to liking, physical attractiveness, familiarity, association, have been shown to work unconsciously to produce their effects on us, making it unlikely that we should muster any timely protection against them anyway. This is on page 174. That's the first paragraph under defense. Instead, we need to consider a general approach that one can be applied to any of the liking related to neutralize their unwelcome influence. The secret to such an approach may lie in its timing. Rather than trying to recognize and prevent before they have a chance to work on us, we may be advised to let them work on us. I don't know how much of a defense that is. He continues on to say our vigilance should be directed not towards the things that may produce undue liking for a compliance practitioner, but towards the fact that undue liking has been produced. We have to understand that undue liking may have been produced, but it's okay to let the liking happen. I don't know. There was kind of a contradiction in the way he was saying that there, and I'm not sure. Maybe because he felt that so much of this was happening unconsciously, it's hard to defend against. I don't know. This physical attractiveness, similarity, compliments, and contact and cooperation, just know that we can get sucked into something easier if some of these 5 buckets are broached. Hold on one second. What do you say?
Hello.
Oh yeah, that's real good. See the little green dot up there? Can you tell class what's on your shirt?
Hello.
No, that's not cool. What's on your shirt?
Hello.
Leo, stop being a cuckoo. What's on your shirt?
I don't know.
Come on, dude. I bought the shirt for you. What's it say? Show everybody. What's it say? No. What's it say?
I don't know.
Yes, it does.
I don't know.
You made this story for me, and you put it right there on the front of this. What is that?
I don't know.
Oh, you're such a cuckoo. Not cooperating. Well, I don't know if you could have seen the logo on the front of his shirt, but it was a John Deere logo. When he gave me my Father's Day gift and did a little story for me, he has me on top of my John Deere cutting the lawn because it's something that I do a lot. When I see other people in the neighborhood riding their John Deeres, guess what? It's this chapter. Okay. Mr. Christopher, CC, Selling Nebraska. In the text, page 176, it stated, positive comments produce just as much liking as untrue ones. If the receiver knows the comments were untrue, wouldn't this have the opposite effect? Well, flattery works, okay? But at the same time, flattery for the sake of flattery, when there's no hidden agenda in the flattery, you tend to take it and you tend to like it, even if it's not necessarily true. Now, flattery for the sake, and there is some kind of agenda behind the flattery, that would not go well. And in my sales classes, it's actually an approach technique. But if you're using the flattery just to get to some other kind of a thing, such as being at a bar and using some pickup lines where you just pickup lines because all you want to do is meet the girl, that's not going to help. But flattery, when there's no hidden agenda, even if it's untrue, is still going to work. Still going to be liked. The article I discussed above told the story of a beloved 70-year-old man working in a Nebraska rest stop. In your opinion, what role does age play, if any, in a person's ability to be liked? For some reason or another, my tongue doesn't want to say this word. Well, if you are older, then you easily can have an age-related effect. But even beyond that age-related effect, you could be younger, and this 78-year-old man could remind you of your grandfather. And there you're putting your own personal narrative into the story, and that's what's making you like the 78-year-old man. So age can play, but it's not just age. There could be other things at play. But we could come up with a reason for the liking. And age might be part of it. He could look like my grandfather or behave like my grandfather. Alexis. Hot mugshot guy. This one was not about the World Cup. How can the court system overcome the disparity between attractive and average-looking defendants getting different jail sentences or fines? Oh boy. The weapons of influence that we talk about in this book, it's not only between attractive and unattractive. Think of the people who get jury duty. Law-abiding, tax-paying, probably more wealthy than not, over the average, mean for income distribution. And all of a sudden, most of the cases, they get people that do not look like them, do not act like them, do not socially or culturally are like them. And guess what happens to the sentences? White-collar crimes usually get low fines. Why, I didn't mean to make that rhyme, but that's true. How can the court system overcome this? That I really, my wife's an attorney. I'm not an attorney. I mean, even if you look at the attorneys, most of the time the attorneys dress up. They look good. They get their hair done. They wear expensive suits. They wear expensive clothes because they want to look attractive as well. They want to fit the part. You do not see lawyers wearing Dockers. Cialdini stated that our attitudes towards something are influenced by how we are exposed to it in the past. Since we are exposed to thousands of messages every day, how do companies break through all the noise and make the positive attitudes towards products? Well, we are exposed to many, many things in the past, but we get heavier doses of certain things. Just like my son Leo gets a heavier dose of the John Deere brand, because that's what I drive to cut the lawn all the time, and they like to jump on my tractor. We are exposed to, perhaps companies use certain times, like Christmas, holidays, and they associate their brand with the holiday to sort of break through the noise and get that positive attitudes. They could pick their times. I mean, we just had an earlier topic talk up here with Ahmed, and L'Oreal's breaking through the clutter because they're using something timely, the World Cup, to do so. And it's a beautiful story to have a beautiful person sitting in the audience and say, okay, look at this. She just went to root for her team, and she ended up with da-da-da-da. The story is getting just as much play as anything else. So that's Alexis. Felicia. Here's the simple secret to Apple's marketing success. Well, you guys know that I'm a big-time Apple geek. Very good topic area. How well do you think the liking principle would work for other computer companies? They already have established reputations, so I'm wondering if we already don't like them as much as Apple. If you think it would be possible for them to increase their market share using this principle. You know, I like to think of Apple as an identity brand. You know, we could have a whole half an hour discussion on this particular topic, but to break it down in a sentence, think of how many brands you would tattoo on your body for life. You know, Harley Davidson is probably the top identity brand out there. Apple's one, Volkswagen's one. You could probably come up with a number of other ones. Buick? No, not one. Well, when Saturn started off, Saturn was an identity brand. And they used their branding, you know, where it wasn't just a brand, it was part of me. You know, in Joe's earlier topic talk, we were talking about fan connection to a team. Well, that same fan kind of mechanism we have with a team, a lot of people have with certain brands. Disney is a identity-like brand. You know, people think about Apple and it's not their machine. It's not a tool to them. It's something to help them express their identity. You know. Okay, Praveen. Physical attractiveness and cash flow. To what extent does physical attractiveness and liking seem to create a negative relationship? What does that mean? Less attractive people ultimately have harder than others. Is there a way to tell when a person is using this to his or her advantage? Or in other words, how do we know a salesperson is trying to win us over? Okay, there's a lot of stuff here. But let's talk about all this stuff first. Well, there's no question that physical attractiveness is one of the liking principles, but it's not the only one. Similarity could be just as powerful as physical attractiveness. You know, cooperation is one of the 5. Could, in a work setting, maybe you're not the most physically attractive and you don't look like a model, but if you cooperate and work well with others, that might outweigh the physical attractive factor. Or you could be highly physically attractive and nobody might like you because you could be the very difficult to work with. So in other words, how do we know if a salesperson is just trying to win us over? I like to think about it this way. If the salesperson isn't telling you something that's in it for you, if there's nothing in it for you, you don't care. And if the salesperson doesn't have anything for you, there's no advantage for you to buy, then they're just trying to win you over. They're trying to persuade you to buy something that they want to sell as opposed to buy something that you really need. Gisela, yoga pants. Are the methods of achieving likability, the 5 we discussed in the chapter, physical attractiveness, similarity, compliments, continual context, and cooperation, effective in overshadowing an already negative relationship? My knee-jerk reaction is to say no. Because what happens is that this chapter, these set of things, liking, this usually tends to get you to use that mental shortcut to use when you don't have a lot of information. So you fall back to things such as physical attractiveness or similarity as opposed to hard cognitive knowledge. If you have hard cognitive knowledge or history and there's a negative relationship, someone may look like they walked out of a fashion magazine, but because of all the past run-ins you had with this individual, you actually feel like throwing up every time you see them, even though they're incredibly physically attractive. You know, that's a decent example there. I'll leave it at that. Mr. Daniel, the man with the cool name. Question. Can the use of compliments turn someone off or push them away? It can. Just like I said earlier, if there's a compliment with a hidden agenda behind it, yes. And we can smell that or see that from a mile away. Some people may be skeptical over the overuse of compliments or the underserving of compliments. Agreed, without question. Lynn, back to World Cup. Brazil, no question, was shell-shocked. What a crazy, crazy game that was against Brazil. And they played just as bad against Netherlands for the third-place game. As Mr. Cialdini mentioned in the Arizona State University example, one tends to trumpet his or her link to victors but reject that of failures. He termed that basking in reflective glory, which is a type of inconsistency, although the person who's doing it doesn't see the inconsistency or realize the inconsistency. Does this mean that the power of conditioning and association outweigh that of commitment and consistency? You know, I don't know if I can definitely say that conditioning and association outweigh commitment and consistency. Because the way it has in the book is, we talk about these 5 buckets of liking. At no point in the chapter does he test which one is stronger or more powerful than the other. I think Lynn is sniffing around a PhD topic that if she wanted to go get a PhD, what a wonderful area to test. Which leads us to our next topic talk, and I'm not going to leave Lynn for yet, but Leah is talking about liking in ways that woo customers. Which do you believe is the stronger motivation for liking, for action? Liking or authority? Now, Leah may be reading ahead. Authority is our next chapter. Authority is very powerful. I think authority is very powerful. My knee-jerk reaction is that it would be authority over liking. Authority over liking. Although, I still need to go back and read the authority chapter, but I do not think that Cialdini links to any studies that rank this one over that one, or any of the 5 of liking one versus the other. These are areas that are unexplored in the literature. I think the stronger thing to say is that these are all compliance principles. These are all things that could be used for persuasion. And Lynn, if you want to go get a PhD, I can help you search out programs, because this would be an awesome PhD agenda kind of a topic area. Carla, being attractive and being liked at the workplace. This principle is easy to understand. You must be liked in order to have any influence or persuasion over someone. But what if you do not have the good looks or the natural ability to be liked? What else could you do in order to have the liking effect in that we work, specifically in the business environment? Well, the chapter gives us these. It doesn't have to be just physical attractiveness. The path to being liked could be cooperation. It could be compliment. It could be contact. It could be similarity, and similarity does not mean physical attractiveness. It's not just one thing. It's not just one thing. Okay. Mr. Travis, liking in the U.S. soccer team. Social media platforms, particularly Instagram, are centered on the idea of liking. Well, Instagram, a lot of them, Instagram, Facebook. Do any or all these factors that Cialdini references in this chapter go towards creating a successful social media presence for a company or a business? Of course. I mean, if you see a lot of people liking something, you may like it without thinking about it just because you see the crowd doing it. So we see stuff in this chapter. We see stuff in the previous chapter. It's also social proof. Social media works this way. We see other people, physical attractiveness, cooperation. We see similarity. We see things that we would want to go to or be like or accept more easily. U.S. soccer team, granted, I would have loved to see them go deeper, but at least they battled in all their games and they went out with their head high, unlike Brazil. Correct, Lynn? It was a horror show. So much so that all the Brazilian fans that were crying in the stadium got just as much TV time as the game almost. It's kind of hysterical. All right, Mr. Chris wraps us up with the Virginia underdog going into politics here. I think Mr. Chris has got a politics themes with a lot of his topic talks, but we could talk about that. Dr. Dano, do impulse decision-making by people greatly affect the liking process? And if so, is it in a negative way? Okay. Impulse decision-making. I would like to say instead of impulse decision-making, it would be decision-making without a lot of cognitive energy. Light cognitive scenarios. Non-high involvement decision-making. If it's super high involvement, like buying a home, and we're talking about a mortgage or a car or marriage, you do a lot more weighing the pros and the cons, and a lot of these little subconscious persuasion things will slide out of the equation. But low involvement, low cognitive thought I would agree that. Is it a negative thing? I don't know if people really care if it's a negative thing, because it's just a mental shortcut to get you through decision making. So that way, I don't know if it's negative. I don't know if I would say it's negative. How much liking has to do with the timing of a situation, such as a political debate? I don't know if it's timing. I think, like I've alluded to, involvement. How involved are you or not? If you're highly cognitively involved, then that's a more significant situation than timing, I would say. Okay? It's week 4. If there's anything more specific about what I said or in the chapter, or please shoot me a question. I have no problem answering these offline. Thanks.